Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Welcome to our Asian Leadership Series. So if you're just joining now, you can share it in the chat where you're calling in from. I see that it's pretty global. There's people from London, Toronto. I think I saw Atlanta, and I'm in New York, Chicago, Seattle. So definitely keep putting that in. It's great to see where people are calling in from. And then I want to share the next screen here just to introduce Bernice and me to all of you. So we're the co-founders of Asians in Advertising, and just a quick brief about me. I'm currently the Learning and Development Director at TBWA Worldwide for the Nissan account. And I'll share it with this group here that I'm really excited for tonight's session because I'm also leveling it up in my career. So I'm starting as the VP of Learning and Development and DEI at the IAB on August 9th. So I'm excited to hear what all of our speakers have for you today, because I definitely wish I had this kind of panel when I was younger just to learn from them. So you're definitely in for a treat. And then I'll also kick it over for Bernice. So she is currently a creative art director at RGA. She'll be moderating the panel today. And we want to encourage all of you to network among each other. So we actually created an event directory. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. This is the link to our event directory where we create this for all of our events, and it's exclusive just for the people attending today for you to put in a slide just like what we're showing you here, where you can introduce yourself and connect with everyone even after today's session. So definitely keep networking among our community, and we're looking forward to meeting you too. Definitely reach out for even virtual coffees with us. Then in terms of Asians in advertising, for our mission, we strive to develop this free community for all of you to create opportunities and help elevate Asians to higher leadership positions. And it's to help make space for Asians within the advertising to come together when the community we often are excluded. And I'm excited to be part of this with Bernice. So for anyone who hasn't heard the story of how Bernice and I even met, I'll share it really quickly, is that we met from an Ascend Leaders in Marketing panel in January. And I put it in my LinkedIn profile in the chat, which I also encourage that here too, for everyone to connect with each other. And we had a one-on-one. She asked me to be her co-founder for Asians in Advertising. And even though I didn't know what that meant, I was like, yes, we definitely need a community for all of us. So we're definitely happy to have all of you here. We launched in March, and we're excited to keep building and growing this community and continue to create opportunities for all of you. And I'll now kick it off to our panelists, and I'll kick it off to Bernice to have her introduce everyone.
Yeah, so we are so excited to have you guys here today. We have such an amazing panel for you guys in all different verticals within advertising. So, this is a great place to get your questions asked and find mentorship. We're here for you guys. So I want to kick this off first to Resh, Sidhu, to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Resh Sidhu. I can see some friendly faces on this call. I'm getting some sideline chats from people that I haven't spoken to in a long time, so that's so lovely. I'm the ECD here at Barbarian, originally from London. Prior to Barbarian, I was at AKQA. I'm just so happy to be here, Bernice. Thank you for inviting me, and looking forward to just taking your questions and sharing whatever words of wisdom that I have to share over 2 decades of working in this crazy space called advertising.
Well, thanks so much for joining. I actually saw Resh talk at 3%, and I just thought she was amazing. And she was someone I just reached out blankly to on LinkedIn. So it's amazing to have you here. Next, let's have Larry introduce himself.
What's up, everyone? I'm Larry Lack. I'm a creative agency partner at Facebook. And what that means is basically I work with agencies and then help them use Facebook and Instagram in the most creative way possible. Prior to that, I spent about 10 years on the agency side, always working social media, from the person that people were like, that's the social media kid, to actually building a team and making this thing called social media be taken more seriously. So I'm super excited to share kind of, I think, my perspective kind of coming up, not only in advertising, but also I just feel like, again, what was like a fringe practice to now something that's super prevalent every single day. So again, I'm super grateful to Bernice and Jessalin for having me. And honestly, excited to kind of share the real with you all. Like, there's a lot of war stories, and I'm happy to share it all. No holds barred.
Amazing. Next, let's introduce Edison Lee.
Hi everybody, Edison Lee here. I have about 15 plus years experience in marketing communications, multiple disciplines from PR, crisis communications, to social media, to digital marketing, and then spent my last 5.5 years on the client side at a financial services company. And I'm honored that Bernice and Jessalin invited me to be a part of this important discussion. As was mentioned earlier, I wish I had access to this group earlier in my career as well. So hopefully you'll get some good advice and we'll steer you in a good direction.
And our final panelist here tonight is Reema Patel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Reema. I'm a career-long brand strategist. Love the world of strategy. Wouldn't change what I do, I don't think. But I am in like an interesting transitional moment in my career where I actually, coming out of the pandemic, I think we've all been burnt out in different ways. I'm taking a gap. So I was previously at High Dive, but have worked at a number of other small agencies, actually big and small. Always have been in Chicago. So I'm really grateful to be here because I think it's an interesting time to actually be talking about leveling up your career and actually taking a break to help do so. But I'm also super excited to learn from my fellow panelists. So thank you, Bernice and Jessalin, for having me here.
Amazing. And so, we have a couple of questions for our specific panelists that we're going to start at the session. So Resh, as a creative, how do you navigate getting promoted? And then are there different skills you need for every level?
Yeah, all right. So let's get right into the nitty gritty. I was really thinking about this, Bernice, last night when we were talking about this, and the other day the panelists and I, we were having this great discussion about all of these things, and I was thinking, as a creative, and especially my experience, it's often assumed that promotions and pay rises come with award-winning work, right? And you've got to be winning the work, getting in the pitches, getting those awards, working hard, putting in the hours, and staying humble. And I do agree with all of those things, but I think one of the things I learned much later on, you've also got to do all of that, but you have to stay woke. And what I mean by that is early on in my career, I would always ask myself, am I doing the best work? And am I happy? And am I valued? But I didn't often ask, am I paid well? I just didn't, right? And it wasn't until later that I actually continued to question, am I doing my best work? Am I happy? Am I valued and getting the opportunities I deserve? And am I being paid what I deserve? And the two bits of advice I would leave for everybody. And I was thinking about what things can I share? I would say two things. Number one is get comfortable with talking about your salary in your career. Because early on, I wasn't comfortable with it at all. I don't think, and I'm from London, and I know a few folks here are from the UK. It just felt like salary and like how much you earn just was not discussed. And the more and more I spoke to people, like-minded folks, like folks on this panel, more and more I spoke to other women, I realized that I needed to get confident and comfortable with talking about my career. So that means my career and also my salary. So that means you can ask for a pay rise without needing a promotion. That means you can have a conversation with your line manager and map out your career plan and what you're aiming for and ask for that, even if they haven't given that for you. So ask. One of the best things I use, I don't know if it's still available, and I know, Bernice, that RGA and Cindy Gallup made this, but I actually used the Cindy Gallup Asks for a Pay Rise bot. I am not joking. It was really good. It was timely, and I remember, feeling like everybody should have that. And if you haven't tried it, we need to get it online. We need to make sure everybody can use it. And it is a bot that unapologetically teaches you how to be confident about asking for that salary and pay rise. So that's the first bit of advice. Listen, get comfortable with talking about your salary and your career. And I have practiced with my other half. I have practiced with my hype crew, practice doing that. And the more and more you do, you'll get comfortable and it will be a no-brainer. The second bit of advice I have is don't sit around patiently waiting for your promotion. Women do just as much, if not more, in the workplace, but they're still paid less than men on average. And that's shocking So in my career, the majority of the promotions I've had really are when I left. They never came to me. And part of me was like, I'm going to tell everybody on this call, don't you sit on your butts and wait for it, because we're all a little bit too nice maybe sometimes. And we think that I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in the hours. My manager sees this. Surely I'm going to get that pay rise, or surely I'm going to get that bonus, or surely I'm going to get that promotion. And for me, they didn't come. They came when I actually got headhunted by other places and I left. And in many of the places I've worked, I waited too long. And time is short. Move. Don't feel like you have to stay. I think there was an old school scenario where you have to stay at a place for 2 years and then move, or 1 year. I'm like, no, look at those younger kids. They're like, I'm going to be somewhere a month. If I don't like it, I'm going to move here. Like, be tenacious with where you are and give your loyalty to an agency that deserves it. So for me, I definitely see women reaching a certain level in agencies and then they hit a wall and they just are not getting promoted past that. I want to see women as CCOs, as ECDs, and I'm not seeing enough of that. So no matter how much you feel like you want to stay, if you're not seeing that career path and there's no room for you, then go. So spot the signs and move on. So that's kind of my 2 bits of advice. Get comfortable with talking about your salary and career, and don't sit around patiently like I have done many times waiting for that promotion.
I love it. I just threw the Cindy chatbot into the chat, and then I also just put the RGA spreadsheet of everyone that put their careers, their salaries, like anonymously. So this is another great resource just to check your salary. I totally agree. You know, talking about salary is super uncomfortable, but it's like a muscle that I'm starting to learn how to use a little bit more. So I highly encourage that. And also Fishbowl. Fishbowl is another place where you can reach out anonymously, be like, so what does your agency really pay? I think this is such a great conversation, and I want to keep this one going because I feel like, you know, tangible advice of how you can get leveled up, especially in promotions, is a great topic, and that's what we're all here for. Larry, do you want to add to that? I know you had some thoughts about this previously.
I feel like, and this is like a little bit of a rant first, and then let's go into kind of the more actionable advice. I feel like right now, and I'm sure all of us feel it too, where it's like the headlines are, you know, we're all about DE&I, right? We want to get new heads. Look at our LinkedIn. Look at the colorful faces that have joined us. And then it's crickets. And then it's like, okay, well, what about, you're getting great talent, but then how are you supporting it? And also, how can we all keep that really accountable? Because I feel exactly the same way as Resh. Like I think about the critical moments in my career. And it really wasn't until I was like, I'm putting in my 2 weeks, peace out, that it was literally like, you should have asked sooner, or like, no, like definitely stay on, we'll like do that. And I think honestly at that point, like it's a catch-22, because it's like, listen, are you staying just for the money? And then do they not value you until you literally had to say, I'm gonna bounce? And then also you're on the verge of a company where it's like, they see what you can do, they understand your potential, and then you're stepping into kind of some of the unknown. And I think for me, I always chose the unknown, because it's literally like, if my accomplishments haven't proven that I'm worthy of a promotion, then maybe like I'm not working hard enough. I think the flip side on that is, was I too timid? Like, absolutely. Like, was I a little bit too shy? Like, for sure. But I feel like so many of us are just like, no, my work speaks for itself. Like, the client probably speaks about how great I am. It's like, and you know all that, but I think that you just cannot be timid. It may feel like you're being self-serving or selfish. Like, fuck that. Like, no, this is like your career. And I think it's like, defend that, because I think about people that I've managed, and I always love the ones that are super vocal, because it's also like, you know what, if I really cannot give you a raise and a promotion, I will tell you why. And then also it's like, if you bounce, then like, good for you. Like, I'm not going to hold it personally, because it's like, I think there's this also personal attachment that we have to really good managers, which I think are rare. And again, we don't want to like disappoint them. I can't tell if it's like, for me, it's like related to kind of like my upbringing and my parents. But I also feel like a really good manager is going to support you, because the industry needs better talent, and not going to hold that against you personally. So again, be selfish, be bold, and always just push for that, right? Like, no one is going to advocate for you as much as you will for yourself.
If I can add to what Larry just said, I completely agree. And I think what's unique about this group as well, what makes this group so special, is having a similar experiences growing up. And I think most of us have an upbringing of kind of respecting your elders and not speaking out of turn. And those are the things that were kind of built into us. But once you get into corporate world, you realize that's holding you back. And there are a lot of great things about our upbringing, but that's one of the things that Larry and Resh are saying. You kind of need to fight against the instinct that, or what may be innate in us, and realize that you have agency, right? You are the CEO of your career, and unfortunately, no one's going to look after your career, right? There may be people along the way who are helping you at that specific moment in time, but you are the one in charge. And so kind of embrace that ambiguity, embrace the uncomfortable conversations that may take place, but also realize that that's what makes it rewarding, right? And taking chances and speaking up. Again, it kind of runs counter, and I know there are many times, as has been mentioned already, where I wish I spoke up, where I should have been more vocal about a promotion or being assigned on a particular project, and not speaking up. But know that we have the power, that you have the power.
I'd like to add one last bit. Is it goes back to actually what Resh was saying at the beginning of like asking the questions of, am I happy in my career? I think often becomes conflated with happiness is the value exchange. It took me a long time to remind myself that this is a job. So you should feel fulfilled, but you should feel compensated monetarily as well. And I think like women feel so victim to that of like, I have a manager who I trust, or I have an agency that feels like a family. And those are all very important, but I cannot, at least for me, it took a lot of like mental training to say, hey, it's okay to say I'm happy and I feel fulfilled on the projects or with the team at my job, but that doesn't mean it has to answer the fact that I might not feel fulfilled from like a salary perspective or a trajectory perspective or what I want my title to be. So I think that just goes back to advocating yourself, like set the goals that you want, you know, who you want to work for, the projects that you want to work for or work on, but also that the money is a real thing. You never want to leave a job you love because it's not working for you monetarily. Like I've been in this situation like that too, where I had to leave because it just was not working for my situation.
So we talk about like everyone like leaving for that new opportunity. Is there anything we can do to kind of set ourselves up when we get in the door, or that research you can do during interview process to kind of vet if this place is going to be a place that's supportive for you?
Yeah, so I think kind of like Reema, I am also a free agent right now. I left my job at the end of last year, and I've been spending this year trying to really be purposeful about what I do next and finding a right culture fit. And I think, you know, there's no perfect solution, but I think it all comes down to networking, right? If you, you know, there's a reputation that you may find buzz online or research you've done, but unless you actually talk to someone who is sitting on a similar team or a team that you want to join, who can give you the real perspective of what it's like to work at that agency, at that company. And I think a group like Asians in Advertising, you have access to people who are going to give you the truth, right? And sometimes it may just be a particular group that's bad or great, and not an entire agency. So I would say, do your due diligence, you know, continue to grow that network, kind of water that network throughout the time as well, and talk to people. I think that's another thing that I learned throughout my job search and the pandemic is like, people want to talk to other people, right? And people are accepting of cold emails or cold DMs on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter. You're not going to bet 1,000%, 100%, but more often than not, people are interested in connecting, especially if there is a connection point, like being of AAPI descent or being a woman or et cetera, or alumni networks and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think using that LinkedIn network, if you see a job opening somewhere and you see that, you know, you have a second connection through someone else in your network, definitely don't feel shy to be like, oh, hey, I see that you're connected to so-and-so. Do you mind introducing us? Also, when people send me connections, I'm like, please leave a note, because you're like, who is this person? I think having that note of like, hey, I want to learn more about your company, or can you tell me more about your position? I know that sometimes, you know, reaching out to strangers may feel really uncomfortable, but I feel like it's not as weird as it may feel like it is. Like, I feel like it feels weirder to send it out than for that person to receive it. And the worst thing they're going to do is just not respond. So highly encourage that.
Yeah, I do want to add one thing to what Edison was saying, like just a little thing that I found when leveling up or going for your next job is when you are negotiating your salary and your benefits and all of those bits, like take a beat there. This is the opportunity, right? And talk to a few people. Don't rush into that. Don't rush into that's it. I'm gonna get it. Yes, I'll just take whatever I've got. And I'm saying this because I was the worst at it. I was literally like, Mom, yeah, I got promoted. And she's like, good, they didn't deserve you. And then I was like, oh, I should have asked for more. Or I should have asked for something else. That is the point. They want you. They are ready. They want you in that company. Have a think about what it is you really want, not only in your salary, in your timings, when you start work, the benefits that matter to you, because I think after that, very rarely do you get that opportunity where they will bend over backwards for you. And as I learned that, I learned that as I got higher up in my career, and I got much more bodacious about asking for things. And it became a little bit of a game of like, let's see if they go for this. And I did that by speaking to women in the industry and really kind of connecting with them and having conversations about, listen, hey, what do you think about this? Is this crazy? Would this put them off? And a lot of what came back was, are you insane? Of course it's not. You're amazing. They should be paying for you. And it's sometimes you just need your hype person to remind you to just go, okay, put my professional hat on. What do I truly want? And be as masterful in negotiating at that point as you are in your work, because that's also part of it. So I definitely think that's an opportunity to grab.
And I do think chatting with your allies in your workplace is such a great thing. Like, I had a friend who she got a promotion. Well, her whole department, a bunch of people got promotions, and they were told that there wasn't any money. And then one of the guys came over and was like, oh, isn't that great? We got so much money. And she was like, wait, me and these 3 other girls got 0 money.
Yeah.
And they basically found out that all the guys got promotions and money and the women did not. And yeah. And it was only because they talked about it that they were even able to bring this up to the seniority and be like, hey, dude, what the heck? So I definitely encourage, find your allies in your workplace, have those open discussions. I know salaries could be uncomfortable, but, definitely like knowledge is power here, right? Especially when it's like money.
I think I just want to build quickly on Resh's point on the interview moment too, right? I think, again, speaking only for me, I kind of like the thrill of interviewing because I'm always excited because it's I want to do well, right? I want to make sure the ECD digs me, the CSO is down, I'm cool with all these people. And so I think earlier in my career, I forgot it's a two-way street. You're interviewing them. And I think it's the hard questions to ask them and literally and you know what? I think also just coming in as an interviewee, right? You have to kind of take some of their answers on blind faith, right? Do you support the, what the AAPI community? Of course we do. There's going to be reviews every year, all the things that we're told. If you don't know someone that works at that agency, you may just have to trust them. But I think that said, that's the line in the sand for you where it's okay, if I'm going to go in trusting you, then I expect that accountability. And again, if nothing follows up, then you can kind of make that call on yourself too. But I think it's push for, and I think as I've grown in my career, I remember asking for more interviews. I remember they're we're ready to talk the next phase and timing. And we all know what that means, but I'm kind of can I actually meet with the CSO again? Can I just get coffee with them, not in the office, and just talk this through? And it's the details when it's that they're excited for you, but it's just really push them, because I just think that due diligence for you just goes so far, because 1, it shows that you're super invested in the opportunity, and 2, that you want to kind of move into the right space. And I think that time you will not regret at all. And I think that, again, there's a lot of us that put the pressure well, I don't want to put them through all that if I say no, or what if it doesn't work out? But that's okay. This is all part of the game. You're not going to disappoint anyone when you're making the best decision for you, because the best decision for you, where you bring your talent, works out for everyone. So I think let's remove that baggage and grill them as hard as you feel grilled, because again, at the end of the day, when more people know what's fucked up about the agency, what's the real deal with leadership, what is the crazy, ask those questions. And I think, again, accept some on blind faith, but I'll just keep that in the back of your mind as you're experiencing the agency for your first 3, 6 months, year.
I want to double down on Larry's advice of ask for more interviews. Once I started doing that, it really opened up the confidence of me going into a job or accepting a job, or I've turned down jobs that I thought I would have said yes to before going into those additional interviews. If you have, if you're able to do that, I would say that's so important, because I think about it like dating, I guess. Like, you're going to ask anyone that you know about this person, what are they like? Maybe we're not going to become, exclusive yet. You need more time. I think approach it that way. And we're so used to this, like, you talk to the hiring manager, then you talk to the team, and it's like a 3-step process, and it is fluid and it's yours to navigate. So I cannot emphasize that enough. Ask for more interviews if you need it.
And so, we all talk about like advocating for yourself, as well as like, we also want to say, how do you advocate for your team or someone else? If you guys can all give like one piece of advice about how to self-advocate or advocate for your team. Edison, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it starts with having a strategy going in. I know we've had a lot of conversations about asking for promotion or during a negotiation phase, things like that. Yes, the first step is asking, right? But then you also need to be organized with how you're doing it. You need to ultimately, this is all we're all working in a business, right? We need to make the business case. You need to have a clear story to tell in terms of, here are the wins, here are the things I've contributed, here are the ways I've stretched myself, and then how that will kind of tell the future in terms of how you'll grow in this role, how you'll grow in the new role, whatever the case may be. And then in terms of advocating, I think that's the way to make the case for yourself and your team. And in terms of asking your managers in terms of what to do, you got to ask questions. You need to, don't feel like you're being a pain in the butt or you're nagging. Like, that's bullshit. Knowledge is power, as Bernice, as you said earlier. And so if you ask questions and that equips your manager with, all right, this person really wants to do X, Y, and Z, and I can help them achieve those things to get to the next level, right? And then you can package that all up as a manager and go to their manager and say, here are the ways I want to level up my team. You have to kind of make it easy for the manager, make that case, say your piece, be aggressive, be bold, but also build that case so it's something that's streamlined, it's simple for their manager to understand, and their manager to level up to their manager too, right? There's a ladder to it. So you got to make it simple, you got to make it persuasive, and you got to tell a good story.
Thanks for that. Actually, I think I'm going to start moving on to all our questions because we have so many, and I really want to get to answering some of this. One of the questions we have here is, what would you recommend when you ask for a raise in your last performance review and they said, check back to me in a couple months? Do you need time to time it right? Or like you have to win an account and then ask for it again? Or can you just follow up? Or how would you recommend tackling that situation when they're like, here, wait for the carrot?
I have a super fast answer. I feel like, again, one of the things that I feel very fortunate to have is like the Facebook, Instagram performance review system is like absurdly hyper specific. Like, I don't think it's kind of not acceptable for your manager to like check back in 6 months. Well, it's like, okay, that's fine. That's the timing. Well, what would we like to do in that time, right? What things need to be achieved? And I just feel like, again, if they're being vague about it, like the writing is on the wall for that, right? So if they're not like 3 super actionable things that you can leave where you're feeling really good about the progress you need to make, and they have a really clear understanding that, you know what, there is real urgency for this person within 6 months, then it's kind of like, that's like unfair. Like for me, that's almost like a non-answer of like, no, we need to hold those sides more accountable of like, and then if it's on the employee of literally like, okay, if I achieve this, and this, is that possible? So like get hyper specific, get people on the same page. And again, if they don't follow through, like accountability is on both sides. Like they shouldn't expect to keep you then after 6 months when you've literally thrown out that warning shot of like, this is what I want to achieve.
There's another great question here. It says, as a person of color, have you ever felt that you were passive for a promotion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you are not alone. I feel like that's definitely happened in my career. You know, a story I shared recently was that I end up feeling the crux of being the dependable one, where, you know, I took the grunt work that no one else wanted to do. And it turns out that opened up these other creatives to have better projects because they just said they were too good to do it. And I was like, of course, we're buddies. I want to help get this off your plate. And that ended up being something that took my career down because then I got all the bad work because I was willing to do it. So I always say, pick your battles. And, you know, as much as we want to be nice to everyone we work with, definitely make sure you're leaving room for yourself to get the good briefs and get on the good projects. Let's see. How much does moving around quickly, i.e. less than 6 months, impact the likelihood of being hired at a new agency or company? Anyone want to take that one?
I can talk to this because I've moved around a lot, and I think the average time that I've spent at an agency is maybe like 2 years, which maybe it's longer than 6 months. But I think the key is just like having the right story, right? And not just the story, like have a strategy, or at least try to have a strategy in how you're approaching your next move. Because I think if you can speak to that very honestly in an interview, there should be no reason why that should be held against you, right? So I've been able to speak very clearly about, you know, this quite frankly I was passed up for promotion. I knew that I could do better and bigger work. So I went to another agency, or this was not the right cultural fit and I needed to do something else. Like, I think if you just are upfront and honest about that, and if they hold that against you, that is a sign of a place that you don't want to be, right? So again, writing on the wall, I think it's easy to look past those flags sometimes when you're excited about an opportunity, but I think just navigate it with the right strategy and then speak to that in an interview.
That's great. Another question we have here is, when you are making a move from one organization to another, how do you reposition your experience to set yourself up for success? Basically, how to promote yourself for a new role when it doesn't line up perfectly.
I can take that one on. I think it's being curious, right? You know, that I feel like there are trends coming out of this conversation. It's like, be bold, you have agency. And it's also being curious and kind of accepting that there are a lot non-linear ways that your career can grow. And so if you're curious, if you're asking questions with that new team or that new practice group that you may be a part of, and you're kind of vulnerable and you're honest with, hey, here are the things that I want to learn about. Here are the things that I may not be equipped to handle immediately, but I'm eager to learn. And I want to know what you know. And, you know, the things between the lines, not only skill set wise, that I need to know to be successful here. And I think then hopefully the team kind of opens up and opens their arms to you coming aboard, and you start to build that relationship. And I think that's the first way to do it. Sorry, I just had my daughter banging on the door, but yeah, ask questions, be curious.
I think like one of the things, at least for me, that I've always really focused on is, I think whether you're starting a new position or kind of punching above your weight class, it's literally, I think I always try to communicate kind of my values and my approach in the interview, because you know what, the things that I may do day to day may change, but who I am, what I care about, what I want out of this job, how I want to grow this team, like that never changes. And I think like with that as the foundation, if there's new things to build out, like that's fine. I think, again, we all should be learning kind of in our career to be growing. But I feel like the non-negotiables for me are just like when things go against kind of the values of, again, what I want out of this career and what I want out of this job. And like, I think just being super upfront about that, because like, again, you don't want people like guessing for you what they think you should be doing, right? And if they understand what you're about at your core, like I think about a lot of the people that I've always managed on my teams, And it's like, I know exactly the right briefs to go to that person because that's going to like fulfill them in this way. And again, that's really rewarding when there is kind of an open understanding of what both parties want. So again, just being really kind of core to what you're about and not being shy about that. And again, I think just holding that line so they know your identity beyond kind of just the projects that you work on and where you want to go.
Question here is, do you think asking for more money during salary negotiations risks your candidacy? Has that happened to you guys?
Not at all. No.
Makes me want the candidate even more. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're worth it and they know it.
True.
Yeah.
I think, as we said earlier, knowledge is power, right? So do your due diligence, go on Glassdoor, go on Fishbowl, go on Real Agency Salary, that big Google Doc. There's an HB1 visa site too that has salary. So like, know within reason what your range is, right? So you can't ask for 300K if the range really is reasonably 150, right? But definitely don't be shy about asking for money. I think there's like this weird social thing against asking about money and talking about money with people, and screw that. Like, know your worth. You only have so many moments of real negotiation power and real leverage. So take advantage of it, of those times.
Yeah, I can give you a very real world example of that. I mean, I will say, because I mean, everybody on this panel are badasses and have been in their careers for a while and super confident. But for those that aren't, you know, that confident yet, it takes time, but you will get there. Recently, I was having, you know, recently a said agency was looking to try to steal me away from my current role. And I started out actually at the beginning saying, hey, listen, I actually really want to make sure that we're speaking the same language here. We're talking about this level of salary, right? And they kind of literally almost, I think, fell off their chair. And I said, well, listen, if you're going to come to get Resh Sidhu, you better come with some wonga in your pocket. Otherwise, as much as you are an amazing agency, it's regardless, you need to be paying people what they're worth. And, you know, conversations happened, they went away, and I was like, what a waste of time. And 2 days later, they came back and said a eye-watering salary. I still said no, because it wasn't the right culture fit. It's not where I want to be. I'm absolutely loving Barbarian at the moment. I have a CEO that is incredibly empowering women and giving me the freedom that I lacked at other agencies. So why would I leave? But don't be afraid to ask for more, because I think, you know, as has already been said, if they're not willing to pay you what you feel you deserve or are worth, or even worth in the industry, it's not worth your time or conversation. And remember, women are paid less. Women are paid less. So if they're coming at you with a salary, you know that's going to, on average, be less. So you want to be pumping that up.
Yeah, and I feel like that directly goes into a question that was just asked about, you know, a recruiter told me that the salary range for a junior level was 55 to 60, but then I found out that 2 other juniors were being paid 65 and 70. And the question is, how do I negotiate that offer? I'm kind of like, well, if they're not being honest, I don't know if you should be like, hey, I know how much you're paying. Other people, you want to point that out to them. I kind of would just leave it. How about you guys? Would you guys fight it or just let it go?
I'd fight it. Absolutely. Fight it. You have the information. You obviously don't want to drop names and make compromise other people's trust, but just say that you know that other people are making more in that role. Again, make the case on why you think you deserve more. And yeah, and if they're not willing to do that, then get reasons why.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, what do I need to do to get to that level? Or if you don't get reasons, say, right, this place may not be for me.
I think definitely ask why. That happened to me when I was at a job. And it goes back to like, let's all just hold hands and make this a more transparent industry, because I think that's what it needs. But in a transparent conversation with a friend who was in the same position as myself, I found out he was making 15K more than I was. And so I went, to the CSO and just didn't name names, but I was like, hey, there's conversations happening. I learned this. I'm just curious as to why. And they couldn't you really answer why in a way that was meaningful enough for me. And that was why I decided to leave. So either ask honestly and then judge for yourself, or there could be situations where it might be like Bernice and say, you know what, this is actually a sign enough for me that it's just not the place I want to be.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I like this question. Do you believe it is worth fighting, suffering through a work or a position that you do not enjoy in order to work towards a higher goal? I think we have the saying in Chinese, like 吃苦, right? Like eat bitterness. And so like sometimes like I've been on that place in my career. I'm like, oh, but if I just stay here a little longer, I can work on that project or be on that brief. And I'm like, I'm so close to that next promotion. And I'm just like not the happiest in my job, but that next carrot, it's really attractive that I think I have done that. And in retrospect, I think 99% of those times I'm like, why did I do that? But that's my own experience. If anyone else has experience to share.
I feel like, and I think I can share this, it's been long enough. So when I was at TBWA, they said, you know what, there's not a social person that's working on Mal. You can work at the Media Arts Lab. You just have to launch this one client first. And the client was Theranos. And I remember being like, blood testing, cool, like I'm down. And I would have, it was probably like the hardest year and a half, I think, for my mental health that I like ever experienced too. And so I feel like in this time where again people are prioritizing that, I think it's like you have to like weigh the options of what are they dangling, kind of what the opportunity is. But I think something that's almost unsaid in a lot of this too, and it's related to kind of the job hopping piece, like for me, I feel blessed in my career because I've had amazing mentors, right? I think like mentors are kind of like those people that often get overlooked, especially in advertising, because if you have a great mentor or manager, it's like you never ever forget them, and they actually hugely inform how you manage other teams too. So I think, again, maybe if the work sucks, if the client sucks, if you feel like you're losing your mind, but you can still learn from a mentor, like weigh that. I think again, the industry is super small. Like you will work with great talent, always like rises up. So you always work with those same people again. But I would say don't overlook a crappy client, crappy brief for kind of great relationships that you can kind of cultivate and grow in that way. But again, like prioritize your mental health. Like that's okay. Like I love that athletes are doing it because like, I feel like in advertising, there's this weird badge where it's like, no, you just suffer through the work and the work gets better. And it's like, okay, to a point, right? Like when you have kids, when you have a family, like it just, there are more things that matter in the world. And actually, if you have a good balance, like your work gets better. So I think, again, finding that balance is key.
I love the support in the chat, people sharing their own experiences, their own questions. I mean, that's why we have that networking deck. You know, we talk about mentorships, allyship, and support. I know so many of us work at agencies where there's not many people to culturally relate to. So this is a really great chance to pop in your name, just see who's in there. You know, this is a deck where everyone that's in here currently is open to being reached out to. I know that Edison reached out to a couple people in our previous event, met some really cool people. I've reached out to a lot of people. I feel like this is a great place to get that networking community really strong. I want to ask this question. What is something we haven't talked about yet that you want to leave as a piece of advice for everyone here? Is there any other pieces of advice you want to give?
I'll start. I think earlier in my career, I so chased the director title. Like making director was like it. It was like the end all be all of literally like, oh, I really want to get to that title. I want to make that. And it's just funny because I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got like on my journey to that was like, you know, if you don't arrive at that level with the right experience, you're not going to be a really good director. And so again, there is something to be said about understanding. And I think what he said to me was like, listen, there's an inevitability with your career. If you put in the time, like you will get there. You will get what you want to be paid. But also there's something about being mindful of the shots you have of working like on the ground, on those briefs, doing the things that you really aren't expected to be doing anymore, whether it is a director level or a more senior level. So I would say it's a little bit of mindfulness of, again, always stay ambitious, stay hungry, but really soak in kind of all the experiences that you're getting at that level, because again, you may not realize the things you miss when instead of being on a shoot, you're actually managing a team of 15 people. So again, balance the ambition with kind of the experience you have currently.
I would say to what Larry said earlier, don't underrate your happiness. No job is perfect. There will not be, every day will not be a great day, but make sure that there are more better days than bad days. And if there are things that, if you've raised your hand, raised your voice about things that aren't making you happy and no change has been made, again, you have agency. So you have the power to get up and go. You have the power to talk to other people at the agency to see if you could join another team or another client. So don't undersell your happiness.
I will just plus one that, having left my job 2 weeks ago. I think it's embrace that there is not a single path, though it feels like that, especially in advertising compared to other industries where you are prompted to try new things. Advertising is pretty like, you are creative, you're a strategist, you're an account person, you do this one thing. Embrace change, ask yourself questions along the way. I think leveling up is about being mindful, like ask yourself the right questions about what you're looking for. If you need a break, if something's not making you happy, like listen to that gut instinct. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say on a recent panel and talk that we were doing about women in the creative industry, another panelist had suggested this idea, and I thought it was fantastic. And I was like, why have I not done this? And you know, often in our careers, we get to them, we can have our highs and our lows, and I think we forget about the achievements we make. It's a little bit about what Larry is saying. We forget about what we're doing. Firstly, we are people of color in an industry that was not really set up or designed to be culturally diverse. Tick. And this panelist said, you know what? Everybody should create their own brag folder. Learn to be your own hype person. And in that folder, just throw in all of the stuff that you've done as you throughout your career. And when shit gets really low and you get imposter syndrome, or you have a bad day, or you're not getting that pay rise, or you're not getting that promotion, you go back and look in that brag folder and remind yourself of how amazing and unique you are and how this industry desperately needs us. And that's so important, because even myself, even now, after 20 years of being in this industry, I'm a mom of 2 kids. I've traveled, you know, worked in London, in New York, the whole world. Even I get imposter syndrome. Even I wake up some days going, come on, Resh, get out of bed. We can do this. You know, and sometimes I just want to, you know, and I'm so jealous of Reema and Edison. Sometimes I want to be like, I want to just take a break and take a beat, but I can't. So everybody has different circumstances, and that brag folder is your little, I'm doing amazing right now. And it's okay to tell yourself that. So if you don't have a brag folder, you build that brag folder and you capture all of the amazing highlights, the wins, the highs, the lows, and even the shitty clients. Because when you look back on it, you go, oh my God, you remember that time we had that awful client and we got through it? That will remind you that you absolutely deserve to be here. And when you do get to a position where you can influence your agency and your culture, turn around and bring in women and bring in people of color and reach out. And that's what I'm trying to do where I am now. So if anyone on this call is looking for a role, we are hiring, come at me. I am trying to find people left, right, and center. And I am like passionate about creating an environment, a little bit to what Reema was saying, where there are no, like, you know, where everybody is fluid and a strategist is creative and a creative is strategy. And if you want to come and do a little bit of this, you can do a little bit of that, but we are all just good humans doing good work. So create your brag folder. And then when you get there, just turn around and put your hand up for everybody else.
I love this conversation. I feel like we could talk about this for like the whole day. And then some. But thank you so much, Resh, Larry, Reema, Edison, for being here and talking about your experiences. It's so helpful to hear that other people go through the same struggles. I feel like sometimes we feel like we're the only one experiencing these, you know, circumstances. So thank you so much. And then I'm going to throw this back to Jessalin to kind of close us out for today. But thank you.
Okay, I'm back. Great. Thanks everyone for joining today and amazing questions. I'm so glad we were able to get through a lot of them. And in case we didn't answer your questions, definitely add yourself to the networking event directory so you can connect. So we wanted to share some of the upcoming events. Then the last leadership series that we have is Elevating into the C-Suite on August 12th. Make sure you sign up for that one. We have a great lineup of our panelists. And then another event that we have is Networking with Ease. And that's facilitated by yours truly, me. I'll be teaching you all about networking, and feel free to let me know if there's specific things that you'd like to learn about how to network and really nurture your relationships throughout your career. And then in October, we have an event that is with Kenny about finding your voice. And this will be on presentation skills. It's a 2-hour workshop, and he did this really great workshop a few months ago back in May that there was over, I think it was over 200 people that has attended it. So it's a really great one. And I know that's been a big request from our community too. So definitely sign up for that one in October. And then keep on networking. So we do have that event directory, and then also join our LinkedIn group. This will be in a post email, but I'll also drop it in the chat in case anyone wants to join immediately, to just, since you're a part of it now. And then I did want to share our shop that we have. So in case you want to buy the shirts that Bernice and I are wearing, or some of the other merchandise we have, and we have all the proceeds will be to support Stop Asian Hate. So we're donating all of it. So it's a great way to support the community, and maybe in the future we'll also start adding other products as well, but just wanted to share that with all of you. And then we want to hear from you. So we'll be sending out a feedback survey, and you can let us know what you liked about this event or what you would like from this community moving forward, because it would be great to hear if there's specific topics you want to hear for future events. We would definitely love to hear that. And I also didn't feature it on here, but I'll share with all of you that we are going to have a podcast that Bernice and I are currently working on. So you can actually see the trailer on our website. We launched it actually like this week. So we're working on our first season soon. So we'll be able to share that with all of you soon. And definitely stay in touch, and feel free to reach out to everyone from the event. And we look forward to seeing all of you soon. And I know we wrapped it up early, so we can maybe give you all back the gift of time, since I know some of you are also balancing out work as well. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Have a great day and a week.